basically, I had been at a conference with this friend. He is a seven-figure author and beyond, and he doubled or tripled his revenue year over year to seven figures. Initially, we were both at this one conference, and I remember going to him, and I had hit six figures. So me being like, I feel like I'm just starting. I'm just a little baby getting started in this business. We can all grow from each other.
Because you need to talk to people who are where you want to be or closer to where you want to be in order to get there, right? So welcome back once again to the Pint and Portal Author Podcast. I am so excited for my guest today. You may remember her from my previous iteration of the podcast, the greatest podcast in the multiverse. It's been about probably 2.5, maybe even 3 years since we chatted, at least on a podcast. We've chatted lots in between. But I want to welcome Erin Winters here today. Welcome here, Erin. How are you doing today?
Thanks so much. I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me back. This is great.
Yeah, it has been a while. And of course, when you were here the last time, for those who have been following the podcast, I think it was like episode 5 or something insane that you were on.
It was early on. Yeah.
Yeah. So lots going on. I know often there's a tendency to do some catch up since then. I think we're going to skip all of that because I know there's been so much that has happened in the last few years for you.
It would take us forever.
Yeah, it would be the whole episode, right? And today we want to talk more. We're going to talk about your books a little bit, but I want to talk about your journey. So some of the last few years are going to play into that.
Mm-hmm.
But, to kick us off, why don't you tell us a little bit about, for those who have not met you yet, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got started on your writing journey.
Yeah. So I'm EA Winters and my name's Erin, but I write under EA. So I got started. I mean, I wanted to be an author like when I was 8, when I also wanted to be a dolphin trainer. So that neither of those really panned out at first.
One of the two was going to happen. And
one of the two eventually. That's right. But it took a while. I actually, I'm also a licensed professional counselor. And so that's kind of what I was en route to. And I was in mental health for 10 years over. And yeah, I don't know. One day I had a kind of fun line that was just too fun to let die pop into my head, and I wrote it down. I didn't know what to do with it, so I just put it in the notes on my phone, and I just kind of thought started spinning, and I don't know, and I landed here. And once I started writing, I just loved it. I got bit hard by the bug, and I'm really bad at doing things halfway is really what this turned out to be. So now it's full-fledged career, like no end in sight. I'm really loving it.
That's awesome. How long ago was it that you first started writing that first book that you published?
2017. So my first one, I didn't really know what I was doing, naturally. So it took me a year to write and a year to edit, and I didn't really know my process. I thought I was a pantser. I don't know what about my type A self made me think, yes, go with the wind. But because either one is fine. You just have to know yourself, And then I transitioned into not doing that so much. I still like discovery write in a sense, but not so openly free.
So loose and fancy free, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So now it's a little more structured too, which fits me much better. and so then I wrote my next book in 4 months instead. Wow. So it just, once I got that kind of going and started figuring out more of the actual business of it and how to do the whole thing, how do you package it? How do you whatever? And just jumping into craft more specifically. So it took me 2017, but it took me till 2019 to just finish that first one. And then I really kind of started getting going. I got pregnant with our second, and not a lot happened during that year. And then after that, we started going. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So a lot of, discovering kind of your own process, how you worked best. And once you kind of realized that you could write a book, it was just a matter of honing that into your own workflow, really, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was like, I really love this thing, and it's really fun. And at the time I was working full time and I was writing, late at night. And then once I had my son, who was born in 2019, my first, then I started writing, like little bits and pieces and naps and after bedtime. And then when I had the second, I ended up accidentally writing some children's books. and then the week after our second child turned 1, my husband deployed, and I wrote books 2 and 3 of my Dragons and Assassins series while he was gone. And I've just been going full forge ever since.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and no kidding, you're so busy. I don't know how you fit everything that you have going on in. So, but how many books do you have now? Your first one was published in 2019, and how many have you had since?
It was out, so I republished it under EA Winters because I needed to separate the children's books out from the fantasy stuff. So I really launched it more sincerely in 2022. So
Okay.
in the fantasy space, it's probably been more legit, I would say 2021, 2022. And I have 12 fantasy novels out right now. So those are 3 complete series and a standalone. So a 4-book series, 4-book series, standalone, 3-book series. And then I have a brand new series launching this September, and I'm writing book 3 of that. So book 1 isn't out yet, but I'm writing my 15th book. I have 12 out so far.
That's amazing. And so your output just is incredible to me because I know you're counseling, I know you're a mom, I know you have a lot of other things going on. You've organized a conference, which we're going to chat about a little bit.
Yeah. I'm insane. I'm basically insane. Yeah. And then I stopped counseling. I had cut back for a long time. I had just spent 2 full days in the office with clinical clients. And then a couple years ago, I scaled back to just 1 day. So then I was like working whenever the kids were in school. I had graduated from naps and after bedtime to school time. So then it was like 9 to 2:40 with a lunch break. And then except for my counseling days, which was twice a week, which 9 to 5. And then I scaled back just one of those. And so then I stopped counseling in May, which was a huge change for me. It was hard to let go of. I was excited about it, but also it was hard.
For sure.
And so I held on to it for a long time. And then we got a puppy because I'm dumb.
And that's another level of things to do, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, when you're working from home, it's nice to have a companion, right?
It is kind of nice. And she's getting there. And that was kind of the goal. My husband is set to deploy this fall as well. We're a military family. So the plan was like, if we got this puppy, which was sort of a semi-surprise sort of thing early in the summer, maybe we'll be house trained and more livable and more enjoyable as a dog and not just as a puppy who pees on everything.
Right.
By the time he leaves.
Yes.
Anyway.
He'll get there. It'll get there. You'll appreciate him so much. Yeah.
She's sleeping next to me right now.
That is super cute. All right. Well, that is an incentive for anybody who is just listening to the audio to head over to YouTube and check out the video version of the podcast.
I showed the puppy.
But yeah, she showed the puppy. Super cute. I love it. So, okay. Yeah. And I forgot. Now I remember that you mentioned it. I know that you had mentioned that you're full time now away from the counseling. I mean, there was enough incentive for you to step away from the counseling. It's not that you were like trying to get away from a day job that was, something you hated. It was actually, obviously, you got to the point in your publishing career where it was just more worth your time to step away and focus on your writing. Yes. So I'm interested, Erin, because I think the last time we chatted, we talked, you had Dragon's Kiss. Is that the name of it? Dragon's Kiss? Is that right?
Yeah.
Out. And I think maybe the next 2 or 3 books in that series, but you weren't full time yet. So, what's happened in the last couple of years that brought you from that point to now where you were able to, like, what was the pivot moment, I guess? Was there one thing or was it a combination of things?
I mean, I think it's a combination of things, like it's a ramping of, so there's certain things that you can do that will help launch you to get to a certain level, I guess, for lack of wordage, which is funny because words have been both of my jobs. But anyway, like there's certain things, right? Like, so the very basic one would be, like making sure that your social media is professional and together, and you have one of those and you're consistent and you're growing those, and you've got a website and you've got, like a cover that's really good. It's not, your cousin's crayon. It's like actually something good by a professional person.
Yes.
And you're able to develop a business mind with a author mind, and that they are not the same hat. Like, publisher hat and author hat are different hats, being able to separate that. And so obviously those are the kind of the basic things that obviously you've been doing for a long time, the same things.
Yeah.
And getting those down.
Yeah. Before you move on, let's sit on that. I want to talk about that author hat and business hat a bit, just because I think that's sometimes
it's huge.
A block for some, writers who just want to write the book and they just want to be creative. But what do you mean specifically for you when you're talking about wearing that author hat and business hat? What does that mean in terms of building an author business?
That's a great question. Yeah. So, and I've had so many people ask about how to get started that I put together a little thing. It's on my website. It's like eawinters.com/for-authors. And it's just a gist of this mindset thing, pros and cons of indie versus traditional, like overview of the basic process. And I had somebody email me and be like, hey, I want to publish a book, and ask me some questions about it. And I thought, well, I'm developing this page anyway. I'll give them a really thorough answer, and then I'll use some of that for the content, but I'll give it to him directly as well. And so I sent it back to him, and he was like, I just was hoping to put a book on Amazon. I get it. It's a lot of work. But if you want to make it a career, you have to treat it like a career. And I think the problem is that most people want to spend hobby energy on it and get career revenue from it. And
Right.
that is not a thing that will happen.
Right.
That's not normal. And that's not something that you should hang your hat on, right? It's like that, the whole cliche, like overnight success in 20 years, right? Like it takes some time, and some people is faster or slower, but even the people that I've seen that have had a massive breakout success quickly out of the gate, they burn out fast, and they really struggle in other ways as well. Sure, they've got a pretty paycheck, but oh my gosh, what do I do with it? And what does it mean about me if my second book flops? Am I a right? Like there's so many things. You take yourself with you wherever you go. And that's part of my counselorness, maybe sneaking out a little bit here and there, but it really is true. And that's one of the things where when we get to the conference thing, me being able to being used to identifying people's obstacles. What is it for you? What are these blocks for you? Has been really helpful. But my colleague and I, Seth Ring, who we like to say, like, it's like it's in the eyes. Like, I'm sure you've noticed this. When you go to conferences, there's certain people that are excited or coming up authors or aspiring, or maybe they're on their debut, and you can just see it in the eyes that they're able to engage with you on the like, all right, so book aside, story aside, this is how we package it, and this is what are you doing? How are you tweaking this? The analysis piece of the business gears are like moving, right? And then you have another group of people, which I like to call it like starving artist syndrome people, which is, I see you nodding because like, these people. It's like, we must wait for the lightning to strike, and if I am not a real artist, then maybe I would bend to the market will. But it's like, or maybe you enjoy something and there's people like you that like that too, and so you have to make sure that it finds those people. There's millions of books that go out all the time, and a lot of them are crap. And how do those people find you, right? And so like, they're trying to find you just as hard as you're trying to find them. So it's a match together. And the business is just the how, not like you did this thing, right? So like my grandfather is good at like software. Well, he's not good at the packaging. He has a product, a digital product, and he was very excited about, and he wanted to make a logo for it. And he took, this connects, I promise. He took a picture of his dog in his vehicle as the logo. There were no edits made on the picture. No edits made.
You're like, that's not a logo, Grandpa.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, he's wonderful. And you can separate that from the business was abysmal, right? It's the difference between, I took a picture with, those wind up click disposable cameras and slapped it on something versus like the Windows logo. They're both of a window, but one is professional and catches your eye and is clean and meets what people are expecting for a product like that and of that caliber, and one does not. And it matters. And when I see a cover that's really crappy, I don't think, well, the story is probably really wonderful. You should never judge a book by its cover. I think if you didn't put any effort into your cover, how am I to believe that you're going to put that effort into the inside? That took a lot longer, or were you not professional in the middle either? And so to me, there's a lot of people that are like, are you published? I walked into it. I was helping teach at a local writers group, and they were all starry-eyed, and there's nothing wrong with starry eyes. I think there's good things about that. And it was very like, but are you published? And it's like, okay, well, what you mean by that and what I mean by that are not the same, because I'm independently published. I mean, up until this fall, everything has been completely me, and that's not what they were hoping for. But if I were to describe what they were hoping for really looks like, they may or may not really want it. So yeah, it's just that like the idea that you just kind of have to wait for it to hit you, rather than like, I'm going to go out and get it and analyze things and learn stuff and put in the work.
Yeah. Were you running your own business as a counselor?
I was independent contractor. So I wasn't doing the marketing or anything like that. I was in a group practice. somebody else did those things.
I only asked just because I was wondering if you were bringing that to your books, like your experience from running a business to your books, and
No,
that's the
I
only
was
reason
really
why I was
fresh.
asking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
good question because a lot of people do, but I didn't go private practice because after I had kids, I went part-time, and so it wasn't worth it to do the renting of a whole other building.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
I already had
Yeah.
a pretty good gig where I was at.
Yeah, right. Okay. No, that makes sense. Yeah. So, and then in terms of progression goes, so you've made the decision. Not just a writer. I'm a creative person, but I am also a business owner. I need to put
Yes,
together a
entrepreneur.
professional product.
Yep.
How do you get, because I think a lot of authors get to that spot where I'm like, okay, I've got my book. I've got a cover. I know it's a fantasy book.
Yep.
I've set it in the world. It's got the right font. It's got the right person on the cover.
Yep.
Okay, now how did you get from that part? Because you had multiple books out before you got to the point where you were living off of your book income.
Yes.
What is the next, what's the next step for people to get to that next level, or what was your next step? How did you go from putting the base in place, which is super important, to getting to that next step? And we'll talk about beyond that after, but
sure. One of the things that helped me hugely was connecting with other like-minded people who could do the business thing. Like I met you at my very first author conference, which was so cool.
It was mine too.
Yeah, which was so awesome. And it was Cindy's first one. And so like several of us met, pretty early on, but identified that not only were we doing the same thing and loved the writing thing, but we were also ready to like pedal to the metal and like do whatever it took to really figure this out and parse it out and put in the work and leave with a to-do list and do it. And so, writing can be isolating, but it doesn't have to be. And I also kind of accidentally stumbled into a writing group of very successful authors who are way beyond, where and there were people making very good money when I didn't know who they were at all, which I think was actually sort of helpful to me because I was like, have you written any books before? Are you new? Do you need friends? I could say hello. And, I was like, so have you written any, like, have you been here before? Have you written anything before? Basically like, are you working on a debut or something? I don't know what I said. And they were like, yeah, we speak at all the panels. We just came to talk to so-and-so and we ended up here. I was like, oh, cool. And like, now they're friends, so like that sort of thing.
Totally.
So I think surrounding yourself with the type of people that you want to do this thing with, right? And also the mindset makes such a big difference because you've gotten to where you've gotten because of the type of mindset you have, right? Like there's a high schooler that Seth and I met at a conference that we were teaching at, and she, oh my gosh, phenomenal. She's got a incredible business mind. Like she's ready to go. She was writing every day with high school and stuff going on. She had set aside time. She's planning to go to school for business to pair with it. Like she had it already. Does she have a book out? No. But do I know that she'll do well? Yes. There's other people with books out that I know will not do well. And I mean it with love, right? But it's true. And it's just like, so those pieces matter. So whether or not that person is like successful or whatever, when you meet them, doesn't necessarily matter as if they're doing the thing. And surrounding yourself with people who are similar mindset helps a lot.
Yeah.
So that thing is part of it. And then as you identify what's the one new thing that you can do instead of spreading yourself into 17 different directions, what are the 1 to 3 things that you can do that will really lean into them to do them well to carry you to that next thing?
Right. And that's important too. And again, it's brought up often on the show that there are 100 things that we can do as authors.
Yes.
But that is a recipe for burnout and for not being successful. It's just a recipe for being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So
I'm
interested.
Well.
Exactly. So what were those few things for you that made a difference that you decided to lean into?
I think for me, part of it was social media. I mean, I was also aided by when I first joined TikTok, it was the late stage of the quick rise of the app. So I got, like, if I had joined just 6 months earlier, my follower count would look a lot higher than it is right now just from that. So it was easier, I think, to get your base going at the time that I joined as well. But there's always going to be pieces like that in the, zeitgeist, I guess. Like there's always going to be something, but you can grow one. I mean, like ZS Diamante, he came on TikTok after me and as an example, and he found I was one of the accounts that he saw and started to copycat and learn from. And then we ended up connecting and becoming friends. But now he's way beyond me because he's been more aggressive while I've pulled back for life kind of sustainability reasons. But he has ramped up, right? So like there are levers that you can pull that you have to figure out which ones are best. For me, social media has been a really big one. And then releasing quickly, also really helpful. The more books you have out and the faster you can get them out at a professional rate, the more you have to give people of your existing audience. You don't have to have as many new people to make a living if you are putting out new things for them to read. Otherwise, they've already read all of your stuff. And then you need to work twice as hard marketing to make sure that you're getting new people to read the books you already have.
For sure.
So there's just different levels. And for me, I think those are parts of it, is putting out books relatively quickly, having something to talk about, ramping up the social media, and then being in contact with other people to help push me like, oh yeah, what is my sales funnel? Stuff like that. Like, what's my sales funnel? Where are people encountering my newsletter? Do I have back matter at the end of my books pushing me to the next book? Do I have a pre-order up for the next book in the series before that one comes out, right? If 2 comes out, there should already be a link in the back to pre-order book 3. Like always, right? That kind of little stuff like that you kind of learn as you go. So I think just kind of being in the space and adding it slowly makes it less overwhelming, because you don't have to have all the pieces right away, but you do have to continue iterating until you get that base down really nice.
For sure. There's so much to know and to learn and to share, especially when you've been doing it for a number of years and you're passionate about what's been working. Because like you can always tell what's working for an author is what they're passionate about sharing. You know, I've always wondered, as soon as you ask the right question, you'll get the right tangent from a person. I absolutely love it. I want to ask about your pre-order strategy, and we're going to pull out a few threads here, but just because you mentioned putting the pre-order in the back of the book, and I always have been a huge advocate of that until my last release, because my book almost didn't go up in time, and I had the pre-order up. So now, and it's because of life circumstance, right? We moved, we had family stuff going on. But at what point in the process are you releasing? You write pretty quickly. So where are you at with your preceding book when that pre-order goes up? Is the book written? Is it just an idea that you're continuing on with the next book?
This is a good question. Yeah, and that's a good point to note, that like not every strategy is best for every author at all times. It could be the stage that you're in or the season of life that you're in, of what's reasonable and what makes most sense. Also, though, a lot of people will put out a pre-order, and then I will answer your question. A lot of people put out a pre-order like far out in advance, twice as far out as they actually plan to release it, just to get the landing page link. Because you do get penalized if you push it further, but you don't get penalized if you scoot it up. So you can put the pre-order way out and then go, okay, now that nobody has been in the hospital or been sick or I haven't broken any limbs, I can go ahead and scoot it back up to what I wanted. But I have that link was ready when I launched it. I like to stack my books if they're within series as much as I can. So I released my standalone first in August of 2022. And then I released book 1 of my 4-book series in October of that year, but I was writing book 4. So I already had them like stacked. And then I release every 3 months, which is a pretty good way to do that. And then I remember I panicked when I started the next series because my readers started catching up with me, because I didn't write a book in 2 months. The fastest I've ever written one has been 2.5 months. I did that twice, but I haven't been able to do it consistently. Out of 15 books.
Yeah, that's
I've done 2 of them like that. So, but and how did I don't know exactly how I did that, actually. Now that I look back, I'm like, I don't know. Could I do it again? Probably. But how did I do that? I don't know. So anyways, so there is that, right? So, all right, let me see where my thought went. This is a problem.
No, you're good. And I think you answered, I do think you answered the question there. Yeah.
And then I put a gap between the series to help myself get ahead. So by the time book 4 was coming out of Crimson Queen, book 4 of my Dragons and Assassins series that came out in June. So I started the series in October. Book 4 of that series launched the following June. So it was pretty quick. And then I was writing, I don't know, book 2 maybe of the next series, book 1 or book 2 of the following series. But I needed to be able to be like, I wanted to release them every 3 months too. And I knew that was way too soon. So I launched the next one in December. So people had to wait a little longer. But then I was able to spend that time to catch up a little bit. And then I could rapid release in series again.
Right.
Which helped.
And having that gap between your 2 series, you've got a full series out, right? That you're able to market a full series. So it's okay that you've got a gap because you can say, here's a complete series as you're prepping the end of the next one.
Yes.
Which, I mean, that is a great strategy. And I think alleviates some of that pressure, because if all of a sudden you're on book four and something happens, well, you're already 3 books ahead. So it's not, you don't have that big of an urgency to
it's
get
a little bit more of a cushion. And if you do have to bump it, like, it'll be okay, but hopefully it doesn't happen often, right? Like if you're bumping the pre-order even date, you can do it once without a penalty. And so it's only like if it keeps happening, but by then hopefully we have a cushion in place or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or even like planning it, setting the date further than you actually plan it to be, stuff like that, to make sure that you get that link in there. But there's other things you can do too to compensate.
Yeah. So for Flower and Forge, I actually had set it a year in advance and I still missed it. I shouldn't say they give you a free 30 days. I used the free 30 days and I got it up. But I made the decision at that point that I wasn't going to put a pre-order up again until I at least had the manuscript written, not necessarily edited, but finished, right?
Well, you can add it at that point, or do the call to action to your newsletter instead, which I'm sure is what you did. Something like that.
So that's so the end of Flower and Forge, my call to action goes to my newsletter. It's exactly it. I did a title reveal and I said, follow here for news and updates of when it's going to be coming out, right? Which, I mean, in a way, I think is almost better
you have those emails
in a lot of ways,
you can directly,
right? Because,
I mean, that is not a bad idea, right?
Yeah, so we'll see. Great. I've definitely seen an increase in my newsletter subscribers doing that. So we'll see if the follow through continues. So it'll be an interesting experiment for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from pre-orders, okay, so we talked about that a bit. I do want to talk about your moving to kind of the next level, because I know you recently had set up a conference.
Yes.
And I know not very much about the conference other than how you're marketing it. So maybe tell us a little bit about what this conference was and the premise for it.
Yeah. All right. So basically what happened was I mentioned that I had sort of accidentally stumbled into a writing group of people who were quite successful. And then there was me, like, I'm going to also be writing books, like I was just kind of getting going, and they just kind of were wonderful. So this conference, basically I had been at a conference with this friend, and his name is Seth. I should say that. Seth Ring. He has about 50 books out. He's only been writing for 7 years, and he has like 50 books out.
That's
he
incredible.
Writes a book a month. He dictates. He has a course on that as well. Everyone I know who's dictated has doubled or tripled their output. And anyway, so he is a 7-figure author and beyond. And basically, his business mind is incredible, and he doubled or tripled his revenue year over year to 7 figures when he was getting started, like from the get-go, which is pretty wild. And I went from $0, I went to $6 to $0 when I had that kid. And then that kid, it sounded awful. And then the second one, that one. And then I made $12,000 the year after that, when I was really starting to like actually do things well or better. And then I think it was 50,000, and then it was 100,000 the year after that. It was something like that. So I guess the first few years I sort of was similar, but his was just at a higher amount. And so he has hit this, certain amount of success that he finds, like, man, when he's trying to, he still wants to level up his business. He still wants to have goals and move forward. He doesn't want to be stagnant, right? Like, he wants to continue looking for levers to pull and ways to evolve and grow the business and that sort of thing. And so it was harder and harder for him to find peers, not that like enjoyable people to talk to, but peers in the industry who would know things at his level, that could talk about business at his level. And so it was hard. And also people, once they hit that level, sometimes you'll find them either they only teach because they don't gain anything from the conferences anymore. You tend to hit max benefit on most of the author conferences if you're doing a good job pretty quick, honestly, in a couple of years.
Right.
You'll hit all the basic information they're given to new people, like, there it is, repackaged. You've heard all of this before. You don't need any of these sessions. You're going to hang out with your friends. You're going to wave at people who who are on panels. You might be speaking on panels and teaching yourself. And if you are a certain level of success, you're probably going to hide in your hotel room if you have too many people following you around just because you're tired, So,
even if you're not successful, you might want to do that. But if you're an introvert, like most of us, right? It's overwhelming, these conferences.
I would be scooting up. Yeah, I scooted away too, And so it's just, that's a thing. And so it makes it harder and harder and harder to find people that you can really learn from at your level.
Yeah.
And so Seth was struggling to find that, and he kind of wanted to create something that was missing, something for himself. He wanted to create something that would draw the kind of person that he is so that he could create more of a peer group for himself. And we were both at this one conference, and I remember going to him, and I had hit six figures low, but I was easily one of the most successful people there by a good chunk. And so then the margin between me and him was also quite significant. And
Yeah.
so me being like, I feel like I'm just starting. I'm just a little baby getting started in this business. And I know more than all of these people. What the heck? Like, I have questions. None of them know stuff. They're asking me basic stuff. And I don't mind answering basic questions. I enjoy teaching. It's just not the
Mm.
same as when I'm trying to grow my own business or if I'm in a teaching hat.
Yeah.
So I remember being like, man, and he was like, he very kindly was like, imagine how I feel. So that's sort of where this came from, was like, all right, how can we strip back all of that stuff and make sure that there's so many places where beginners can get, or people getting started can get that information, get that foundational stuff. There's so many places catered to that. We need
Yeah.
something that's catered
100%.
to the people beyond that, right? You've already got the professional stuff down. Like, you are selling books, you're making a profit, you have a business with a business mind on. You're not going to say, what is KDP? And it's okay if you don't know what KDP is, but Google is your friend there. You don't need to go to, right? So that sort of thing. And so creating a conference for people who have already got those things down, who are already doing well, that they can really network with each other. We can all grow from each other. It's discussion oriented. So we have some teaching, but we also have like really discussion, because we're expecting at this point, you are at a certain level, you know, things that we can all
Yes.
benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's impacted the format. We also want it to be intimate. We're capping it at 50 people. You must apply. This helps us cater, based on the survey, the content to exactly what you need. But it also helps make sure that we are curating the room to make sure that you
Yes.
have met these criteria.
Yeah.
So that it's just best for everybody. And we did have one person that, well, if you were to, we've had a few events now, but if you had a couple of people that are on the lower end or maybe weren't quite ready for it, they're just overwhelmed. It's like a massive fire hose. And so it's not
Right.
actually helpful for them either, if that makes sense.
Yep.
It is,
No,
but it's not.
absolutely. And that's great to know. Yeah. Again, lots there that we can pull on. Like you mentioned, this is it's a smaller group. So people who are listening are like, well, I'm not making, in that range. It's I think the thing to take away from that is to find a group that maybe is on your same level, if not a little bit
Beyond.
at a higher level than where you're at, so
Yeah.
that you can learn where you're at, which I think for me has been a struggle, even at a point where I wasn't making much from my books. You do cap out pretty quick
You
from,
do.
being in a group of debut authors. If you have
Does not
3
take long.
books out,
Mhm.
there's a big gap there.
Yeah.
If you
Very big.
if you understand, covers and blurbs and what KDP is and what going wide means,
You've mastered 80% of what the discussions are.
you do, yeah. And so trying to get to that next point, one of the things that clicked the most for me was when, not the first time we met at 20 Books Vegas, but during Author Nation, I think the last time we were
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
And there was a group of us there together, and I was by far making the least revenue at that table, I think, based on
Mhm.
what, at least on the conversations we were having. But I learned so much from that group, and that really
Yeah.
stuck. And that's probably part of the inspiration of why I've come to this table, as
Mhm.
far as, talking to authors one-on-one in a podcast
Amazing.
format.
Yeah.
Because you need to talk to people who are where you want to be or closer to
Yes.
where you want to be
Yeah.
in order to
Or
get there,
similar,
right?
but they do that thing well that you want to start.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, or they do something different than you,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. So, all that to say, if you're not, to the listeners who are not one of the 50 people who are making 100K, but you want to get there, that's, to me at least, one of the ways to get there is to find out what those people are doing
Yes.
who are closer to that point than you are, right?
Yes.
So,
And
yeah.
I will say one of the reasons we have, if you look it up, it's at luca.vip is where the thing is. The conference is Level Up Conference for Authors. And so I kind of pair my experience in publishing with the counseling experience I have for group facilitation and identifying and overcoming obstacles. We can talk about preventing burnout, but we can also talk about things like, do you have a personal or a product brand? What is your personal genre? I'm not talking about fantasy or LitRPG, but what is your personal genre? There's something more specific and robust there.
So give us
Things like that.
give us an example of that. Like, what is, like, if I were to ask you, what's your personal genre? Like, how How would you explain that to a listener?
I would say I don't just write fantasy. I don't just write clean fantasy. I write fast-paced, high-stakes, clean fantasy with all the action and adventure and none of the smut or the cursing. I write books for people who still believe that hope should win. Those sorts of things. Seth Ring would say that he writes clean, aspirational adventures for people who want to go on adventures, I think, or want to be heroes. It was one of those two. Something like that. So it's almost like what are the common threads that make a you book you? It's not just a fantasy book, it's a Herman fantasy book. Like it's one of his. And so there's something that's common about you, and maybe it's something intentional, maybe it's not. But there's something about your voice that's unique, that sets you apart from anybody else that's in the genre or in your market. And that is your personal genre.
Right. So essentially you're talking about personal branding as being one of those things in a way, right? And that's obviously like not all
identifying
that is
voice
encompassing
and
in
some
that,
of these
but
other things. Yeah, that's a piece of it for sure.
But one of and that's one of those things where you're looking at someone who is at a place where they're trying to get to the next level. You're taking a look at some of these pieces that maybe you're not going to get out of a intro to self-publishing course, right? When you're talking about what's your personal brand, you've got more tailored sessions and workshops and that sort of thing at this conference.
Yes.
Around those different things.
We have a manual that we're going to be building out every year that has at this point, we want to make sure there's fresh information, but we also need to get people started at the same foundation. We're probably going to have some Zooms ahead to like catch people up on some of these things and have we have SWOT analysis type things, like how do you assess your business most beneficially at a quarterly basis, but like how do you sit down and assess what those are and things that you have to repeat each time. And also something that's different is like you have your highest value repeatable action, which for most authors will be the writing. What's something that only you can do? That's the only thing, like you can't pass that off. You can't offload that to somebody. But we also have things that we talk about, like how to hire correctly, how to manage the managerial load of hiring staff or having assistants or operation managers or whatever. Because, for example, at Seth's level, that's what he hired this past January. Was he runs multiple businesses. He had an operations manager who is now managing so he takes some of the managerial load. He takes the goals and the vision. So Seth is like, I'm his boss, but also he's my boss. He tells me if I should do a thing based on what we discussed, right? So like how to do that, how to pick people, and like which next thing in your business will 10x, have the potential to 10x it versus 2x. How do you choose? Every yes you say is a no to something else. So how do you select what to do? How do you manage your time? How do you drop into focus and stay focused so that the time you do have is a higher productive segment, So those are pieces of what we talked about this past time. Preventing burnout, we talked about that, but we'll be tailoring it each year a little bit as well so that it's fresh and new for people coming back.
Yeah, and all of those pieces, obviously there's something there that you're only going to handle once you're at that level. You're not hiring an operations manager if if you're making 10K a year or whatever that number is.
But there's principles you can implement sooner. But there's certain things that it's like that's not going to be applicable.
For sure. Now, is there, in going through this process, whether it's during the conference itself or just talking to the group that you have cultivated, has there been anything that has been surprising to you as far as something that's worked or not worked, or in terms of implementing it in your own author business?
I mean, I think this might be a little bit embarrassing, but it's been helpful for me to prepare for the conference. It's helpful for me to prepare for the conference because it forces me to like do the thing that I tell people to do. So I have to like actually like, have I done an analysis on my business regularly, and what is my current, strength, weakness stuff and do I have the next item that I would offload? What's my 1% improvement in these areas, so I think for me, just personally, running it has been very helpful because it forces me to keep that top of mind.
Right.
Just like I think when you attend a thing, like Zach and I were talking about this, it's like I was talking to him about some structuring your day things that I do or that I recommend for different brain types and stuff like that. Just from the counseling thing has snuck in again, and we were talking about that and how it just sometimes having someone that you're going to meet with to talk about it is like what you need, right? Like maybe you wouldn't do it at home. So you do it during that week while we're there. Like one of the biggest feedback that we got was we needed it to be more days because people who usually didn't get fire hosed kind of did. And because they normally hear basic stuff at cons, and they hear a couple of nuggets here and there that are helpful. And this was just a little bit different. And so it was like, whoa, they needed more processing time. So we have added a day, so it's 3 days instead of 2, but we're ending sooner so people can go out and like have dinner and do escape rooms or whatever to like process, talk with each other a little bit more. Because that's it's more than half of why you go to most conferences, right?
It is
that time.
100%. Yeah.
So yeah, but it has been interesting to see different people. I think one of the things was like, if you see someone who has shot up very, very quickly, it's easy to wish that you were on that track, and that is not necessarily of benefit. It could be.
Mhm.
It's also a good thing, but it comes with a lot of pitfalls and a lot of panic and a lot of like, how do you overcompensate from the fact that you feel like you should be at a certain level and able to track with everybody else because you're making the same amount of money, but you don't know what to do with what you're doing. And you don't actually know these basic questions, but you feel like you're not allowed to ask basic questions because you have this amount of success, right? Like there's an awkwardness to it. And there's things that it's very helpful to slow and steady comes with a lot of benefits. So
And what I've seen as well, though, is that, you know, if someone hits at, let's say they hit a platform or they hit something that's working well at the exact right moment, and it's their first book and they hit it and it takes off, but then that platform dies or doesn't work as well, or they don't know what they did well enough to replicate it somewhere else or to, you know, so it's harder for them.
And you don't have the data to test. Was it this title?
Yes.
Was it all like,
Yeah, you're all in on one thing. And sometimes, you know, people can make it work, but not always. But, you know, you don't necessarily
they're more likely to never write something again.
Yeah.
You see that with famous authors.
You do. It's very true. If there's one thing that you would suggest or one piece of advice that you have to an author who's maybe making a bit of money, isn't quite at that 6-figure level yet, or is just trying to build a full-time career, what would be your number one recommendation?
You need to protect the parts of the day when you know that you're more creative naturally. Those are your writing times. You don't schedule meetings for those times. You don't do admin work during those times. You do nothing else but write during those times. That is your greatest value, highest repeatable action that you've got. So for me, it's the morning. I should not go to the dentist in the morning. I should write in the morning, you know, and if you have the day when you start kind of slowing down a little bit, if you have to schedule something, that's when it is. So I would say write more. I'm saying it to myself as well. Write more often, more words, more things, write more books faster. But not dying. You have to also balance that, right? Obviously. That's a whole other podcast. We can do that sometime now. That would be easily an hour.
We totally could. We'll have to do
hours.
that sometime.
I would love to. Yeah. So write more, prioritize that higher, see what you can offload or at least shift when it is, and then look for 1% improvements. What is 1% improvement that you can do? Maybe it's cueing your focus, or maybe like, you know, with a certain music or a certain drink or a certain chair. So maybe it's focus itself, or, you know, maybe it's some other aspect of your business that you need to create a process around. So which part of your business do you hate the most, and how can you improve it for yourself or pass it off? That's what I would say, I think.
Very good. Yeah. And I will say that not opening my email during writing time is paramount, because that is a surefire way to get down a rabbit hole that's 2 hours long, and then your writing time is done.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's the worst.
Very, very sage advice. I want to shift gears just a little bit, and I know that we don't have a ton of time, but I do want to talk about the series that you are promoting right now, that you've been working on, because you are doing a little bit of a genre switch here. So tell us about what's happening, what your new book is all about.
Yeah, sort of, kind of. So I would say, for people who don't know what LitRPG is, I would contend that it is still fantasy. I have not jumped ship. So all of my 12 books are fantasy, and then the upcoming series that I'm writing, number 3 right now, and book 1 comes out September 15th, is called Monster Makers, and it is a LitRPG. I would say that it's a LitRPG fantasy, and several other established LitRPG authors would agree with me, because they have said so, because they would say that it's more a structure than a genre. And so LitRPG, literature role-playing game, is the idea that, like, it's not necessarily a game. It could be like Jumanji is more of like they've fallen into an actual game, right? Which is a form of LitRPG as well. Ready Player One is a form of it. There's an actual game involved. It does not have to be, though. And my preference is that it's actually a real world. That's a fantasy world. And the magic system just happens to operate. All magic systems should have rules. And this one happens to operate with some sort of way to gain levels, to gain skills or abilities that you are rewarded for, as you progress. And so it's just kind of it's a fun twist on how to do a magic system that I really love. And there's something else about the culture of it that just lets you play more. You can just kind of play and it's permitted, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, as long as
I've
it
always
works
liked
within kind
banter,
of
but
your mechanics, right? Yeah.
Yes. And that's the other thing is that I'm also, it's very much, personal genre kind of thing, right? Like it's very much me though. So like if you like my fantasy, you'll like my LitRPG because it's a LitRPG fantasy and it's an EA Winters LitRPG. So the things that make my book, the things that people tend to like, that was a bear of a sentence, are all here. So basically the idea of this one is that there's experience points or XP that runs the world, almost like energy companies. So there's monster leaks in the city. We don't know why, but they just kind of like appear in different parts of the cities. And then the bells go off and reapers, warriors, fighters come in to try to kill the monsters. As they kill the monsters, they can gain points and level up if they get enough of them. But we don't know why the monsters keep coming. So as this happens, the XP is taxed when they earn it, converted into energy and sold back to the people. And it runs everything from your bank to your inventory. You cannot have gainful employment without it. You're screwed if you don't have the system, if you're not in the system. You don't have anything. You don't have an inventory. And so basically think like original Australia. If you are a criminal, you get kicked out of the system and left to die at the rim, which is a very toxic area. So that's sort of where we find ourselves is we've got one guy who is trying to make up for a mistake that caused a death. And he's trying to level up and prove himself and change his legacy. And then we run into this other person who is an unleveled engineer, and she has a sister who needs life-saving medical equipment for her ailment, but it requires XP. And so she's been stealing it and hacking it to try to keep her sister alive. So basically when we drop in, that's a lot of information. I need to shorten this. But yeah, we basically drop in on somebody cutting power to a mansion and jumping out of a window, and we follow them to all kinds of mayhem and chaos. One of the agencies is broken. Nobody's leveled up in a long time, and then he levels up twice in one night, which is a very big problem. So
yeah, I have to say I am very excited for this series because I've seen some of your reels and that sort of thing, and it sounds so interesting. I've just started getting into LitRPG myself, so I'm not deep in the genre, but I'm getting more into it. I've recently been sucked into the world of Dungeon Crawler Carl, which has opened up a new world of subgenre. Yeah.
Yes. And it's a booming genre that's bringing a lot of new people to, and a lot of LitRPG, not all of it by any means, but a good chunk of it has pieces of like cozy, and mine are not cozy at all. So, I mean, there's banter and there's fun in it, but it's very high stakes.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting crossover though, right? Like from cozy to RPG, because it does seem like there are a number of authors who delve in both. Like S.L. Rowland, I know is one.
Yep.
And I know there's some others
who
kind of
both.
So, but yeah, it's definitely not a cozy by definition genre,
definitely
right?
Not.
It's almost like the other side
there's
of
just
cozy.
Pieces of it. It's like cozy but with brutality. But somehow, I think there's pieces of the levity or the irreverence that's often in a lot of it, like just the vibes that make it more friendly and like less serious.
Yeah,
and also
I
keep
think that's
like a heart of coziness sometimes here and there. But then sometimes, and if you have a truly very overpowered kind of MC, then you would end up with lower stakes because like they're gonna win, obviously, So there's a lot of people. It's like, okay, well, he'll get back to growing onions in a minute or baking or whatever he's doing, but like he just has to blow these people to shreds, and it'll take just 30 seconds, and he'll be right back. And so those are just overpowered, and that's okay too. That's a booming thing too. So it's exciting as it blossoms and as it grows to kind of be able to like bridge the heart of LitRPG and also like these other audiences, because I do write clean, and a lot of LitRPG is, and a lot of LitRPG is not. And so I can provide that like fun twist without so much the explicit stuff. And for some people who don't prefer the vulgarity, mine would be clean of that.
For sure, right. Yeah. I mean, just like any other genre, you can find a wide range of where you're comfortable on that spectrum, right?
And now that it's growing, there's just options abound, which is
100%.
awesome. It's so
Yeah,
fun.
I know we're coming close to the time where you got to head out. I want to give you a minute to plug your upcoming Kickstarter because that's going to be hitting
Thank you.
it soon. Yeah, and we'll
Yes.
ensure to link it down below. But tell us what that's about.
Thank you so much. Yes. So this is a special edition. This is the most requested special edition of all of my books. For those who are on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. I'm going to hold up my. There it is. It's got the Blood and Flame Saga. It is my book one of my 4-book Dragons and Assassins series. So the base copy has the gold foil and the sprayed edges, and it's got custom art end papers inside, which is super fun. You'll be able to vote on exactly how you want to add extra bells and whistles, which is really, really fun. But this story has been just a joy. And basically every month the Great Black Dragon comes and a child is snatched from the village. And that's all the village knows. But Summer was one of those children, and she knows there's a dragon lord in the mountain raising up his own personal syndicate of indoctrinated assassins. So when she exposes a dark secret that he has, she decides to risk everything, make enemies of all of her many assassin colleagues who are now after her to prevent his next hit. So that is that one. I'm so excited to be launching this one. It'll be a ball. So please definitely check out the link. Hit notify me on launch. It will be coming soon. It'll be this fall. So yeah, head that. You're gonna want to see how it unfolds.
I love it, and I'm super excited. It looks amazing. I know you're running.
Thank you.
That. I know it's your first campaign, so the best of luck to you with it.
Thank you. Yes.
And I know it's a fun story. So. But quickly for our listeners here, if you can just let us know where's the best place to find out more about you and your books.
Man, you can find me on Amazon under EA Winters Books, but you can connect with me on my website to really see newsletters on there. All of my links and all of my access stuff are on social media. I am primarily on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. So go ahead and hop on those. Definitely follow my newsletter so you can get all of the updates and you don't have to miss a beat when something drops. But I think those are you can get signed copies exclusively on my website or in these campaigns and Kickstarters.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's where I am.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today, Erin. This has been so much fun and so much information, but we're going to have to get you to come back on at some point because talking about author burnout, I think would be a great conversation. So
let's do it. I would love that so much. Thank you for having me. This is so much fun. I really enjoyed talking to you. This is great.
It's been great. Yeah. And we will chat again soon.